Welcome to the Film Student Study Guide. This is episode 11 now. Yeah. I'm Roberto and this is co-host Truman Matheny.
That's correct.
This episode is over Pi. Not The Life of Pi. The movie Pi. It's Darren Aronofsky. Is that his name?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Interesting.
What?
Well, I just had one specific question that we'll get into once we get into the movie after we move past our opening Star Wars banter that's become a staple on the show. But I was curious whether Darren Aronofsky is Jewish or not, and the answer is somewhat.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
How does that work?
Well, he grew up in the Manhattan Beach area.
Okay, so he grew up Jewish and then he left?
Yeah, and he was born in Brooklyn.
Oh, nice.
So New York, as I'm sure you are aware, specifically I'm guessing Manhattan Beach is pretty darn Jewish. Am I correct?
I don't know specifically about Manhattan Beach.
But anyway, so he said he was raised culturally Jewish, but there was very little spiritual attendance in temple. Which makes a lot of sense to me. I probably am a little bit more raised spiritually Jewish than him, but, I see a lot of cultural Jews in my line of work, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's something that I'll have to tell you about religious things later on, whenever we get done with Star Wars stuff. But, so this week, or last week, I watched Return of the Jedi, because the week before we did the first two Star Wars movies. And I liked half of this movie. Because there's a lot of things that I didn't really like, but the ending part of the movie I really liked and was interesting, but it's just like, I
to be
like
honest,
for all of these movies, except for maybe Empire Strikes Back, there's just so much of a sugarcoat of nostalgia, and it's just like, I feel like these movies are not as great as everybody thinks they are, except for Empire Strikes Back. That movie.
Oh my gosh,
Empire Strikes
Roberto!
Back is really good. Empire Strikes Back is almost perfect.
I cannot believe I ruined Star Wars for Roberto Manco Stens.
I mean, you didn't ruin it.
Oh my gosh!
Like I still like the universe of Star Wars, and I still will watch pretty much anything that they make, But I mean, this has been like a process that has been happening for a while of where I've just realized that the movies are just kind of shitty, and they're the least interesting part of Star Wars, except for Empire Strikes Back.
There's more than the movies in Star Wars.
Oh, so much more.
What more is there? Like, it's there's movie books, franchise.
There's TV shows.
But George Lucas didn't write any of the books. None of the books are authorized by George Lucas.
But he did, for all the original trilogy, for all the ones that came out when he still owned Star Wars, all of those stories, before they went to print, he had to give the okay to. So he still had, overriding creative control. Then for the 2008 Clone Wars TV show, the one that just finished up and the new season came out for, that one...
Really? It was still going on?
It's a troubled cycle. What happened is they made 5 seasons, then Disney bought Lucasfilm. They canceled the show because they wanted creative control over it. And then people complained because the shows that they were making were too kiddie and just shitty compared to what they were making, and so they brought back there were a series. There was going to be another season after the fifth one, right? Because it was on Cartoon Network, and it was one of Cartoon Network's like most popular shows, right? So when they canceled it, the sixth season that was in production was half finished and half still being worked on, right? So they put out the episodes that were half finished, and that's the lost episodes, which is the now sixth season. And then years later, that happened like 3-4 years ago. Whenever whenever Disney bought Lucasfilm, and then the new episodes came out, which are some of the rest of the season that were finished.
Okay, so put it this way: I remember the Clone Wars like cartoons, not the animated series, but like the little cartoons.
Yeah, the 2003 Samurai Jack ones.
Yeah. So are those also within the universe of the? Okay, those aren't canon.
Yeah, same with basically anything that anything that isn't the movies and the newer Clone Wars TV show is not canon. All of like the tens, I don't think it's hundreds of books, but it's like it could be close to 50, like of just books that they've made before Disney bought them. All of those are not canon. Which I've read pretty much all of them. Then
that's so ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it was a big thing back in the day. Like I had read all of those books, and now they're not canon anymore.
It's so ridiculous that you're saying that all of these things are like the best part of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And they're not even part of Star Wars.
Yeah. No, they're amazing. They're really good.
I mean, I guess I understand because like people could easily argue that like Red Sun Superman is the best, Superman comic, and it's not canon, but like
yeah. I mean, I feel like it's just by virtue of how these things are created, because when it's a movie, there's a lot of money behind it, and it just and like a lot of the times it just gets bogged down in trying to be like bogged down in trying to have a little bit of everything for everyone, instead of just trying to like execute on a singular version and try and tell a singular story, which is what they did a lot in the books. And they add a lot of there's also a shit ton of comics, by the way. Those are also really good. But like with the comics and the books that were coming out honestly since like the 90s, all of those there's not all of them are really good. There's some really shitty ones, or ones that are just sort of just like meh. But like a lot of there's some really, really good stories there, and some like there's just some really, really good stories.
And are you a big fan of The Mandalorian?
I like it, yeah. I really hope that they don't. The biggest problem that I have with The Mandalorian is also the biggest problem that I have with Star Wars. The biggest problem that I have with Star Wars is that in this giant galaxy full of millions of planets and millions of like types of aliens and human beings, or millions of beings and like different ways of life and like different things, all that we really care about is this one family and everyone related to that family, and they're all human and they're all white humans, and it's really like and like that might be too fuck it. No, that's just like boring. There's never been any main character that's been an alien. There's never really been any main character who's been like
Jar Jar.
Fuck you. There's never been any main character that's been either like an alien or not white. And that's just boring to me. Like I would honestly
also what's his name from The Force Awakens that everybody got mad at originally?
Finn?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he is a main character. I
do find it funny
though. I feel like
though.
Kylo Ren and Rey are the main characters of that trilogy.
It is. I see what you're saying, though. I understand that it would be interesting to see more extrapolation from one of the, any of the side characters,
or not even side characters. There, if you read any of the extended books, there's like entire planets that like a large part of the galaxy honestly just thinks that Jedi are just like a myth, just because like a lot of the Jedi just mainly like there weren't enough of them to like. Well, one, they're not supposed to be the police of the universe, but like there's not enough of them to like try and weed out injustice everywhere, right? So a lot of the times, a lot of like the back core rim worlds that are just sort of like the Tatooines of like the middles of nowhere, a lot of times they just sort of like just got shit on, and the only real like power there was like the Hutts or just crime. And so a lot of the times like the people just got shit on, and they just didn't really believe in Jedi who just like had like the sort of like mystic powers. It's like what Han says in A New Hope. It's like there's no like all sort of like binding force that like controls my destiny. It's just sort of like a lot of dumb tricks and luck. Like that's what like most of the galaxy believed in, and that happened, and it was more and more prevalent the further away that you got from the core worlds, which is where most of the Jedi spent their time.
So, I think I've had my fill on Star Wars lore education for this week.
We haven't even talked about Return of the Jedi at all.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to transition to. What's going on with Return of the Jedi?
Okay,
what are your findings?
So
the Roberto okay should be trademarked.
I think it's kind of dumb that they're building another Death Star. Like, great. We already did this before. Like, it just makes me feel like we already did this. Why is this a threat? We blew it up once. So what if we can do it again? I don't care. It upset me.
Didn't they start construction on another Death Star in Empire Strikes Back?
No. Well, I mean, chronologically, yeah, they probably would have had to, actually, but like it doesn't show it. Like in the universe, yes, construction would have had to have started, but it doesn't show it in the movie. It's a thing that starts in Return of the Jedi. My bad.
So what's the ship that they're on with the key saying of Luke, I am your father? What's that ship?
That's Bespin. That's
so why didn't they blow that up?
Because Lando owns it, and it's a civilian city.
Okay.
You haven't seen these movies in a while, haven't you?
No, I saw them freshman year. All of that was lost on me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't hear. This is a civilian city that, Darth Vader is on now. I thought they went up to another Death Star.
Well, no, it's not another Death Star. There's only 2 Death Stars, and then the second one was made in this movie, and Return of the Jedi, which I find dumb because I already went into that. I find it annoying that in the beginning Darth Vader flies in on a normal Star Destroyer, because in the second movie he has the Executor, which is the giant Super Star Destroyer, but in this movie it's not there, which is whatever. Fine. It shows up later in the movie, which is funny because if you look at it, the model that they built for it is so heavy that the edges start to bend, so it's no longer like a perfect triangle. It's sort of like you have to see it. C-3PO I find annoying in this movie. The exact words that I wrote was, C-3PO is annoying. He's such a beta fuck and says the most obvious things which are annoying. I feel like that is a little too harsh now, but whatever. I feel like there's not really a purpose to the full first half of the movie where they're on Tatooine doing the Jabba thing. Other than
the whole Jabba scene, that's the best part of the movie. That's why I like the movie.
I mean, yes, I understand that they need to get Han, but like, I don't know. It's just like,
That's the coolest part. The Sarlacc pit and the like
I know
monster
what
battle underground or whatever.
No, I agree. It's cool, but there's no point of it being it being cool. Besides getting Han, which like, fine, whatever. I'll accept it.
I disagree with you because like, what's the point of any movies, anything past being cool if you go like that, It seems like they had a first objective. Like, I guess Return of the Jedi has a two-act structure then.
It's an action movie too, so I guess I'm asking too much of it.
Or even a 6-act structure. I don't know how we would, dissect it, but it seems like there's one hero cycle to get Han, and then once they get Han, there's a second hero cycle.
Yes, I will agree with you on that point. That felt weird, and there's the middle point of this movie is when they go into the conference room, and Mon Mothma is like, there's a new Death Star, and that whole transition scene feels weird, and I feel like you nailed it on the head with that.
Okay. I'm glad, because this one I have not seen since, I think, maybe second grade? Third grade?
And it's your favorite? How can you say that it's your favorite since you Okay.
Because I remember that's all. A New Hope is also, sorry, that was also the one I watched the most when I used to, because I told you I had that little VHS player with the TV built in to the VHS player, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I watched a lot of these movies on. That's what I watched Indiana Jones on. Yeah, we had like, I think we had The Last Crusade and Temple of Doom on VHS.
You didn't have the first one?
And we had... No, we didn't, because I hadn't seen the first one until a long time ago, and I've seen it once in its entirety, and I was really bored. Really, really bored.
Really? So what do you think of the Temple of Doom?
Oh, I love Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom is my favorite. Temple of Doom is a non-stop thrill ride.
Interesting.
I just find that Temple of Doom is the most entertaining of the first trilogy. I honestly am pretty ambivalent to Crystal Skull. I enjoyed it when I saw it, but I wasn't much of a film nerd when I saw it. I think it came out in like 5th grade for me.
See,
something like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't. The alien stuff was weird at the end. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a fan of it, but like, I don't know. I didn't feel like Crystal Skull deserved to be as shit on as it was.
Yeah. See, Truman, the thing that I like about you is that I feel like whatever like the common theory about a movie is, you have the opposite theory, and it's really cool how just like every time you'll just like think the opposite, or just have the opposite.
It's just because I'm a desperate contrarian. I need to be different than everybody else. It's a compulsive desire for me, and then also I just have this instinctual no in the back of my head. But I think these theories are pretty legitimate. It seems that more and more as I grow up, I'm gaining less and less of those theories, and they only come out when it's like, what's the best one in this trilogy or whatever. Mm-hmm. But even then, Terminator 2 is the best in the trilogy. Everybody knows that, just period, end of story type stuff.
I feel like we might have to do, if we don't do like the earlier Star Wars movies, we might have to do Indiana Jones for this like review segment in the beginning.
Oh, Dude, I don't know. I don't know if I can watch Raiders of the Lost Ark again.
Why? It's not that bad.
It's so long. It's so long.
Oh, that's another thing. I've started to realize that I really like shorter movies. Like, I feel like 2 hours is just too long for a movie. Like, an hour and a half, I feel like is just, like, is honestly, like, ideal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've also seen a lot of... Well, I really think it just depends on the pacing.
Yeah.
Pacing is such an important thing for movies for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, for me, you really better justify why you doing slow paced. And then I like to think I have a pretty stark who gives a shit radar for movies. And so, anything that's even slightly of a who gives a shit, because that's that whole thing that, like, screenwriters are constantly talking about, so what,
That's my entire point for the first part of Return of the Jedi.
Well,
so what?
My point back is that my favorite character in the entire franchise,
Oh no,
other than possibly Jar Jar, is currently locked in whatever carbonite sci-fi jibber jabber.
Okay, good. I thought you were gonna say Boba Fett. That's the other thing. People think Boba Fett's cool. Nah.
I like the Fetts. I don't know which one's which, but I like them.
Jango's the first one. Boba's the second one. Jango is blue and silver, and Boba Fett is green.
Okay, so yeah, like, here's what I'm saying. My favorite characters in the Star Wars universe are probably Han Solo, Jar Jar Binks, Jabba the Hutt, the Fetts. I don't care which one's which. They're both just cool.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, that's about it. I think that might even just be all of the ones that I like, period. No, I like Darth
the Clone
Maul.
Wars TV show. Like, that might make you like Star Wars.
So I recognize that the Clone Wars TV show is probably good, and it probably has a lot of lore to it. But I just can't see myself watching 5 seasons of.
Well, you don't have to watch every episode.
TV show.
It's
episodic?
Yeah, it's episodic.
I thought it was a full. I thought they had arcs.
There's arcs, but like, there's arcs of like 3, maybe 4 episodes. It's not like a whole seasonal, and in each season there's like 20-something episodes. So like, and there's a lot of one-offs too. So yeah, you'll get the like 3-4 episode arc, and those are usually some of the better episodes, just because they can do more and tell like a more interesting story. But it's not like
and General Grievous.
Yeah.
General Grievous, and yeah, and did I say that I liked Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn?
You did not, but I would also agree with you.
So these are like all my favorite characters, and so that partially, I think that's what really explains why my favorite Star Wars movies are. I think I like Anakin pretty alright.
If you like Anakin, you need to watch the Clone Wars TV show, because literally that show makes him honestly one of the best characters in the entire like everything.
I liked the Samurai Jack cartoons a lot when I watched them a long time ago.
Yeah.
In fact, when I used to watch those, they were possibly my favorite Star Wars.
Oh, they are still some of the best.
Also, what's his name? The Clone Wars movie.
Oh, don't watch that piece of shit.
That one was my favorite for a while when it came out.
Okay.
What was the cartoon Clone Wars movie?
It was the 2008 Star Wars Clone Wars movie.
Okay, and that is different because Attack of the Clones is the live action.
That's 2002.
Okay.
I
Anyway,
don't know why I know all the years of all of these things. Like the Clone Wars TV show, like the Samurai Jack one, that came out 2003 and 2004. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I just think that the two things that really define what makes a good, really any kind of action movie are A, characters, and B, cool sequences, and then also the overall plot, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going by that, then yeah, the opening sequence is a cool sequence. So then I guess by that metric it works.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is I don't find that any Star Wars film, period, end of story, has a compelling plot. I have not seen a Star Wars movie that I think really has a compelling plot.
Yeah, I would honestly agree.
It does have a couple compelling characters that I listed all of the compelling characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also has some compelling sequences, which I think the only compelling sequence that I guess A New Hope I'm a little too hard on because it does have two compelling sequences. Han shooting first, mm-hmm. and the trash compactor scene. Okay. Those are compelling to me.
What do you think about the trench run?
The what?
The trench run. At the end of the movie.
Oh, no, I don't care.
Okay.
But I mean, half of the whole Return of the Jedi film, at least when I remembered watching it, was just that opening part.
And
like
that's
30 the part minutes. That I like. Like, that's a third. That is a third of that film.
I'm pretty sure it's 2 hours, so it'd be a quarter.
Okay, a quarter of that film is all one long cool sequence with all of my favorite characters in it. And then the same with
I'll give it to you.
And yeah, Phantom Menace has some of the most compelling characters and has a couple really compelling scenes in it. Specifically, the Darth Maul lightsaber battle.
Yeah, that's cool.
Someone argued, and I think I agree, on the fact they said that the best lightsaber battle in the entire Star Wars, movie franchise was the lightsaber battle between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. So that the final that final sequence is the best lightsaber battle in the entire Star Wars.
I would like to see his reasonings why, and of like why he judges that scene as the best and why other scenes aren't.
I don't remember. I have a feeling it was just some random guy from Twitter with, the video sequence posted as like part of it. And I think it made me go and rewatch the sequence, and I was like, man, like the choreography of it.
Oh yeah.
Pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, and all the prequel fights greatly choreographed.
Yeah. So I think I've made my points about Star Wars, and I think you've made your points about Return of the Jedi.
I have gotten maybe halfway through the movie, but I'll finish it quickly.
Oh god damn it. Every time, Roberto.
Well, okay. I have a lot to say about Star Wars. I mean, we've gotten through the halfway point. I feel like Dagobah is just exposition planet, and it's honestly kind of boring. I agree with you now. I don't know why Yoda dies. Like, I get it's the storytelling point of, like, the mentor dies, but, like, and something I guess has to happen to him, but it's just sort of like, oh, he died. Huh, okay.
Did not remember that.
I like Obi-Wan better in the prequels, but it might just be that I like Obi-Wan better in the TV show, and I just assume that I just, like, group the TV show with the prequels. The dumb lines are back, but they're not as bad as New Hope. But they're still there. It's occasional. I feel like the plot line that this movie is supposed to be about is the Luke plot line with Darth Vader. And that's only like a quarter, maybe a third of the movie. And I feel like just the rest of the things are just like, here's a cool action sequence, here's a cool action sequence, here's a cool action sequence. And it's just like, I don't really care about all of that. I just want to see the Luke and Darth Vader thing. And then whenever I saw it, I'm like, oh, like, it's cool, but it's not as good as I remembered. And honestly, the last season of the Clone Wars TV show had me a lot, was more interesting and had me a lot better than the entirety of these three movies. So
that's the other thing I'm thinking about is the other sequence I really like is that ending sequence where he's saving Darth Vader, and we finally see his egghead,
where they photoshopped off his eyebrows.
Yeah, that was, I liked that. And the is it Emperor Palpatine?
Yep.
That's the big bad guy that we really hate? Yeah, that was cool. I like the whole Shocky Force thing.
Yep.
And then I guess my comment back to you, Roberto, is that, you know, what makes a good action movie, the way I see it, is like plot bumps, right? So this is why Speed is on my list of movies to see before you die, is just because it expertly does such a simple plot, right? They're stuck on a bus, and if it goes under 60 miles per hour, it's gonna explode, right? That's the whole thing. Whole movie takes place on that bus, except for maybe 30 total minutes, including, you know, the setup and the denouement, right?
Okay.
Yet somehow for an hour of movie time, right, they continue to keep throwing challenges and action sequences their way on the bus. You know what I mean? And so I don't see any problem with throwing in action sequences that aren't as related, that are like, well, you've got to do this to get to this, to get to this, to get to this, you know, unnecessary obstacles. I think that's necessary, and especially in video games, you know what I mean?
Oh, well, yeah.
Video games are all
that's different.
Unnecessary obstacles. You know, so I don't see a problem with unnecessary obstacles that create good action sequences.
Okay. I noticed that this time I did not hate the Ewoks. Like, the Ewoks are fine. They did not bother me. They're just there.
I think anybody who has a strong opinion either way on the Ewoks is wrong.
Yeah. They're there.
They're there.
Yeah. I think C-3PO being God is an interesting, like, the good the good sequence of the Ewoks is when they get captured and C-3PO is God to them, and then Luke does his force powers. That's an interesting sequence. There's a ton of all of the big sets and big backgrounds are entirely just paintings, and I wish I could have one. They're just ginormous, like 40-foot paintings, and it would honestly like be a dream if I could just have like like a wall just be that painting. That'd be so cool. I thought the space battle was really big when I was a kid, and it was ginormous, and there's a ton of ships, but it's really only like 10 ships versus like 20 Empire ships. So that's kind of okay. That's some nostalgia stuff. Leia is just like there. I feel like we talked about this last time, of just Leia is just sort of like just not as great of a female character as what everybody thinks that she is.
I really want to do this. I really want to do this episode so bad.
I know.
We need to.
I do too. We really do.
What? I'm gonna reach out, and there's a possibility that we could do female characters next week. But
ooh,
you know,
okay.
Of course.
Gotcha. We'll talk about this later. The other thing, I find it somewhat annoying that in the end of Empire Strikes Back, Luke is still like the normal person that he was in the first movie, and then in the third movie, he's like Jedi Luke, and he's completely different. Like, I feel like I want to see that change in the movie, but I don't really see the change. I feel like in Empire Strikes Back, we should have seen the change, and we should have seen him become more like of a Jedi. But in the end of in the end of Empire Strikes Back, he's still like Tatooine Luke, and it's annoying. And it's interesting to like whenever you first like your opening scene with Luke, he's like, oh, this Luke is different. He's different now. He like he does Jedi things. So I feel like that was interesting. But yeah, that's everything. I did like most of the movie is just I want Luke and Vader to talk and do their thing and just to have like father son moments, but it only happens like once or twice in the movie, and it's annoying.
All right, are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, do you want to start your thoughts on Pi? Because I'm curious to hear what well, I guess I'll give a little bit of an introduction of I saw this movie, I think somewhere in between 6th through 8th grade.
Okay.
Somewhere in middle school, I think.
That would have been an interesting movie to see in middle school.
Oh my god, yeah. I did not know what to do with it, but I knew it was awesome. Like, I watched it and I was blown away, had no idea what I just watched, but I thought it was super sick. The other thing is that it was going to be deleted from Netflix in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
It had that little expiration date, and I was like, well, I got to watch it before it gets deleted. And anyway, I watched it, and I got so lost that I thought it was just supposed to stop making sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it again, just now, and I did not get lost. I understood it.
I didn't get lost either. I really, really liked this movie. I found it really, really interesting.
Yeah, I just really, really like Darren Aronofsky. I still haven't seen Noah, and I haven't seen, I think it's Transcendence or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's very, very unique, and I really appreciate that. So even when I personally don't really like Requiem for a Dream, mm-hmm. which the more and more I talk and think about it, the more I think it might be because I saw it way too early.
Yeah.
I think I might have saw Requiem for a Dream also in middle school or early high school. To where I think that might have been the first time I saw someone doing heroin on screen.
Nice.
And so
I
was
like
just told,
watching
like,
The Graduate as like a elementary school person.
I saw The Graduate in 8th grade.
Really? Oh,
maybe 7th, maybe 6th.
That makes it worse.
Yeah. It was I got it.
You don't even understand half that movie.
No, I got it. I definitely got it.
I mean, okay, whenever we watched it in chaos, did you like see more of it, or did you like think of it more?
No, not really.
Interesting.
I think The Graduate does a good job. I think you get it, you just don't empathize with it until you're graduating high school.
Yeah. No, I
That's
think
when
I
you
think it was really
begin to-
funny that Gallagher made us watch that movie like the month before we were gonna graduate, because that movie messed with me, and I did not like it. Like both that movie and Ferris Bueller's Day Off just make me sad now.
What?
Because if Ferris Bueller's Day Off is just like a high school movie, and it just makes me sad.
I mean,
like, yeah, it's a funny movie. It's awesome. It's just like, it just makes me like sort of like sad and depressed.
One of my favorite quotes that I've ever said, well, I think this is just like my favorite quote about movies that I've said ever, is I was watching a movie with my friend. Specifically, it was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Okay.
When it came out, right? We were watching it in the theater, and at some point they're breaking into this house, right?
Yeah.
And I turn to my friend and I go, you know, movies convinced me that breaking and entering was going to be such a pivotal part of my high school years, and it wasn't. Or my teenage years in general. I think I may have broken and entered once or twice.
You've done that before?
And even then, I climbed over a wall to get into a swimming pool at the JCC and gotten a lot of trouble for it.
I've actually technically, I mean, it wasn't necessarily breaking and entering because I just like opened a latch and just went into a pool.
Exactly.
Or, like, climbed a fence.
Yeah, breaking and entering in real life is nothing like what it's like in the movies. And then I did another. There was this old abandoned warehouse that people would graffiti in Houston
cool.
that I went to. And so you did have to like climb a fence to get in, and then scale a wall to get out. I think we just like crawled in or something like that. But yeah, so that's also the other time I've broken entered. But still.
We'll be getting letters from the police on our doors a couple days from now. So,
I mean, dude, with how many other people were there at that time, I can't imagine it's a priority to the police officers. That one building that people graffiti in, you know?
Yeah. Like, if nobody owns the building, who gives a shit?
I don't know. I know it's restricted. Like, we weren't supposed to go in there. I know that. But anyway, let's get back on topic. Darren Aronofsky. I don't know if I would say one of my favorite directors. Partially just because he has a relatively small body of work.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Which I actually really like and appreciate, you know. I like that. I feel like modern directors in general, there isn't that huge, insane body of work spanning multiple, generations. It's more like, you know, a film every 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And so, seeing as how specifically my favorite of his films are there are 3 of them. The Wrestler, I only feel like, I was like, cool, glad I saw it, you know. It was a good movie, but, you know, not really one that I'm going to carry with me. And then, Requiem for a Dream, which I don't like, but I need to rewatch, you know. I don't know if I fully feel he deserves favorite director status from me, which I'm sure he's crying right now about the fact that he's not one of my personal favorite directors. But he's pretty close. And so I do love Mother and I love Black Swan, but I think Pi is my favorite. So I think we've sufficiently. Yeah, I think we've sufficiently introduced him.
So what do you like about this movie? What? Because I just think it's super interesting. Like, we're just like, there gets to a point of where just like the number, then it's like this number is that number, and they're all related. And then at that point, I was like, oh, I want to watch this movie now. I want to see what happens to the number. Please tell me what the number is.
I don't know. What do I like about this movie?
Yeah, or like, why do you like it?
Well, I think what it is that, yes, you hit the nail on the head. It's interesting, period, end of story. And then I think it's very captivating. It's very suspenseful the whole way through. And then at the same time, it's also really, really, I don't know. Yeah, I think suspenseful is just the best word to say. And weird. Yeah, suspenseful and weird. Like, when have you ever felt suspense about a guy trying to solve a math problem in a movie before and having it work so well? And then the classic Darren Aronofsky move of... And by the way, he's going insane during all of this. I'm trying to think of a Darren Aronofsky. The Wrestler, he didn't do that. But Mother, she's going insane during all of this. Requiem for a Dream, I think all of the characters are going insane during all of this.
Yeah.
Black Swan, she's going insane during all of this. I do like that just in general whenever a movie does... Oh, by the way, they're going insane during all this, And the fact that now it doesn't even have to be the only thing going on in a movie, It's like, here's the plot, and also they're going insane.
Yeah, yeah. It's just part of, like, the rising conflict, or rising action.
It's a second conflict as a whole, I would say. And so anyway, I think that when people are going insane, it lends itself really nicely to really good visuals. And I think this movie has a lot of really good visuals.
I found that it was very, very contrasty. Like, it's either like, and it might have just been the version of it that I watched, but it's either like just white or it's black. And there's not really a lot of grays, and I found that very interesting.
Yeah, I think I also admire it a lot now, because it looks very, very low budget.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's able to achieve so many things. They don't have to do some kind of crazy monster to attack him as he's going insane. Just a brain in the middle of a subway is enough,
Ooh. Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the highlights of the film, that one scene.
See, the funny thing about that scene is the entire time that he's in the subway, I could not really focus on what was happening in the scene because I was just trying to figure out what subway he was in. And by the end of the movie, I'm pretty sure that one of them he was in Times Square on 42nd, I think. And
oh my god.
I've been through that station so many times. And there's any time that he's in the subway, it's like, oh, I feel like I've been there. I feel like I know what that is.
Okay, actually, I have one quick question for you about New York.
Yeah.
I watched an episode of Seinfeld recently where there is one subway station where there's a guy who has prepackaged euros, right? And they're $3 or something like that. You quickly go, you give him $3, grab the euro, and go. Is that true?
Is that like I have never like is it like a stand in the subway?
Like not on the subway, but like in the subway station where you get on.
Is it like a stand or is it in the wall?
A stand.
Okay. If it's in one of the bigger stations, like Times Square or like Penn Station or one of those.
I think they mentioned that it might have been Grand Central.
Okay, that would make sense. I find it a little bit weird that it's just sort of like a stand and not like an allocated place that they have for food. But it might just be a thing that they made that might just be a thing that they have just because it's in the 90s. But yeah, I would believe that. That's not too surprising.
It's a big plot point that they have to run off the, subway really quickly, grab the euro, and get back on before the subway doors close.
Oh god, that's like 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so that's the whole concept.
Yeah, that's a real driving force for that episode.
Kind of.
Okay, let's get back on topic.
Yeah.
What is the computer goo?
What do you mean?
He finds goo in his computer and there's ants in it.
Oh yeah. Cool. It's cool.
Do you think what do you think about it?
I just think it's cool. I love that whole setup in the computer. Also, something we haven't talked about yet, and I know I'm killing your computer goo.
I don't care.
Idea. What is that the VO through the whole film, and specifically when he repeats VO at certain points in the movie, specifically the staring in the sun story.
Yeah.
I love when he repeats it and it kind of changes a little bit, because of the connotation
and
it has
the
now.
The more is told every time.
Yeah. I love that structure. That's really, really cool. I think that's another thing that really makes this movie fantastic. And then also, one thing that just... I love all of the Judaism in it,
Yeah.
So, things like... So, think about that. There's a movie, I don't know if you've seen A Serious Man by the Coen brothers.
No.
But I really was not a big fan of that one. It's not anywhere close to one of my favorite Coen brothers movies, and I don't even know that I really enjoyed the movie as a whole. And that's because the Judaism in that film really isn't relevant to me, and it's not the stuff that I studied and things like that, right?
Yeah.
That whole monologue at the end of this movie, I've been to the Western Wall, and my tour guide explained the whole story of why the Western Wall is such a big deal. Because until I went to Israel, I actually had no idea why the Western Wall was, the place. I just thought, oh yeah, you put a note and God reads the note. You put a note in the Western Wall and God reads the note. It's just the Western Wall. That's just how it goes.
Like the last wall of wherever they kept the Ark of the Covenant or something like that?
I think it's the Ark of the Covenant, but maybe you made that up and it just sounds right to me for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, it's one of the last walls of the Great Temple that was bombed and burned down, where where the only people in the world who knew God's true name, lived.
Yeah.
Which I believe they did make up the whole idea that God's name is 230. Was it 6 or 31?
34?
31 characters long or something like that. And anyway, I believe it's Yud He Vav He, which is why Yahweh is, or Yahweh, I guess, because Vav is V.
Yeah.
That's what Yahweh comes from, is that's very possibly God's true name. But the thing is with
is that what Indiana Jones says in
Yahweh?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so shoot, I may have lost my train of thought. Anyway, with Hebrew, the vowels are written under the consonants, right? And and eventually, as you learn to read Hebrew, you just recognize the words so much that you don't even put the vowels on it, right? So the newspapers are written with no vowels. You know, the Torah is written with no vowels. You know? So all of these things, right? So since no one knew Yud He Vav He, there aren't any vowels. So God's name was lost, right? Gotcha. So anyway, it's just super cool to me that such a big key element of this film is about the death of God's true name. And the other one that's really cool is the thing where he talks about all the numbers that, Jewish text is in, because that's very true,
Oh, is it actually?
Yeah. What he talked about, I'm not certain that, I'm pretty sure the examples he gave are true, but dang. I mean, we had a sign hanging up in my synagogue that showed, Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Vet is 3, and has the whole Aleph Bet, the Hebrew alphabet, and what numbers they correspond to, right?
Dang,
and so
that's cool.
It's really cool because there are people who are studying and decoding the Torah, and trying to find patterns and things like that.
That makes me want to in like a math class, just do all my math in in Hebrew.
You could. You very well could. But the craziest thing is that in some ways, operating from a number back to Hebrew is like operating in Roman numerals. There are so many ways that it can be changed and adjusted, right? I don't think this is exactly the same, but anyway, if they're operating with this 236-digit number, that means that they're only using the first 9 numbers in the, Jewish, the Hebrew alphabet's decoding, because once it hits 9, it goes into double digits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there were to be a 1 and a 4, maybe it's Aleph and Yud, or maybe it's whatever number 14 is, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's really cool about it, is that this huge string of numbers, they're kind of oversimplifying. It's really cool that a key plot point is that Max is the only one who truly can decode this number, because he's the best mathematician. And all of these high rabbis of the Jewish faith won't be able to do anything with that number.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So yeah, That's another reason. That long explanation is another reason why this movie really speaks to me, is because of how cool finding pattern in the stock market is, and how cool finding, truth in the Torah is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the movie isn't really even about that. That's just more of like a reason to drive. That's just more of like what drives the plot forward. It's not necessarily like what the movie is doing, I guess.
I disagree. I do think that is the plot. I think you're getting too meta by thinking that we're not watching a man try and decode the stock market, and that's what his real end goal is,
Does he end up decoding the stock market? Because I feel like this movie just ends kind of abruptly, doesn't it? Or does he just like go crazy and destroy his computer and then he can't do it anymore?
Well, he destroys his brain. He takes a drill his brain to try and erase the memory of that number.
Why?
Because it's so powerful. He doesn't want to be that powerful.
Oh, because everybody's chasing him. Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That will end everybody who's chasing him for that number if now, like, the number doesn't exist.
Gotcha.
And they have to find it their own self.
Yeah, okay. That part did not register for me. Dang, I really like this movie.
Yeah, and then the very end with the girl asking him that math question, and he just goes, I don't know.
Yeah. Huh.
Did I just blow your mind?
Oh, I mean, I like, not completely, but it's definitely like it makes the movie better.
Yeah, and then overall, like, I just think it's so cool that in some ways you can't look at life the same way after watching this movie because the movie does create a pretty stark reasoning for why the whole world is built on math. And a lot of that movie is true, and, there are a couple things that are kind of fudged a little bit for the movie's sake.
Yeah.
In that I don't think God's true name is actually that many digits.
Yeah, it's however many steps Indiana Jones takes in the Last Crusade. However many tiles he steps on.
Well, if he only stepped on 4 tiles, maybe that'd be correct. Because I'm pretty sure God's true name. I'm pretty sure God's true name is Yud He Vav He.
I'm pretty sure he only stepped on 4. I don't know. We would have to watch it again.
Okay. So I've dominated the pie conversation. Did you have other stuff you wanted to talk about?
I just really I just find this movie really, really interesting. I find like the music in the intro and just like everything like about this is just like, it's just like an interesting movie to watch, and it's very entertaining. And as I said earlier, like once like the like general premise is laid out of like, this is the number and we're trying to find this number and this number relates to everything, I'm like, okay, movie, go do your thing, movie. I'm hooked. I'll watch whatever. I don't really care anymore. Just show me something cool. And it does. So I really like this movie. This movie made me want to watch the rest of his movies.
Yeah. And then I do like your point of 2 hours is long for a movie.
Yeah.
Which really relates to this movie. I think this movie's only an hour and 15 minutes or something like
Maybe. I thought that it might be
It's-
like an hour 30.
I'm pretty sure it's less than an hour 30.
I mean, it might be. That's
Just barely less. Just barely less. It's an hour 25.
nailed it.
But yeah, so I do appreciate that this movie is pretty short, but it does everything it needs to.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Like, I feel like once you get past a certain point, you're just adding more to the movie. And, like, maybe there's, like, more complex plot lines that need that amount of time. But, I don't know. There's something, like, really nice about just, like, I'm going to watch a movie and it'll be, like, the same length of, like, a football game. I'm talking about soccer, football.
Okay. I don't know how long soccer games are.
They're 90 minutes.
Oh, okay.
The halves are 45.
But yeah, the one thing I am going to say about the whole thing is that Aquaman was like, what was it, 2 hours and 30 minutes long or something ridiculous like that? Did you not see Aquaman?
No.
Really? You didn't see Aquaman?
No.
Let's see.
Okay, well then, what do you think about Endgame then? Because I feel like, I was gonna ask you about this earlier because you said something about you not liking slow movies, and that the start of that movie like goes fast. Like the first like 5 minutes of the movie is just like bang, right? But then it's slow for like the like next like hour. And so I'm wondering what you think of that. It's also like 3 hours long. So, what do you think of that?
I think they did a pretty good job with the pacing of Endgame. Again,
didn't I
I
see it
preferred
with you?
Yes, we watched it together and we took the picture.
That's right.
Of us wearing diapers saying Endgame ready because everyone was complaining that it's 3 hours long. And Aquaman is in fact 2 hours and 22 minutes long.
God.
And the whole movie is a thrill ride. It's just a whole mess of unnecessary obstacles.
Interesting.
It's a mess with its unnecessary obstacles.
Interesting.
But I really enjoyed Aquaman, actually. And then also, you heard what James Cameron said about Aquaman, right?
No.
When he said he was super like pretentious and dicky about it.
Oh, of course.
And he said something along the lines of like, I just prefer my underwater to be more realistic.
Oh,
or something
what?
like that. That was like, what? Okay,
What?
James Cameron. Well, because James Cameron went on his like one-man submarine so many times.
Yeah, no. He did the whole thing of like the deep sea. Like he just really likes the color blue, and he really wants to go to the bottom of the ocean to see what the bluest blue is, and then he really wants to go to a planet full of blue people. So.
That's yeah. But yeah, so I will say I generally prefer it when movies don't have to be that long, but I understand that if you're making an epic, you're making an epic,
Yeah.
But you better earn that runtime by not letting anything drag, There are few movies that are really long and don't drag.
Have you seen Lawrence of Arabia?
I have not. But I will say there are movies.
Someone's hammering.
There are old, pretentious movies that are very slow and purposefully slow.
Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia is one of them.
I was going to pull out more pretentious ones. Have you heard of Stalker?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
No.
Okay, I really, really liked Stalker, but at the same time, I was bored. You know. And so, yeah, it's just kind of, if they know what they're doing and they have a reason why it needs to drag, then yeah. Or even The Usual Suspects intentionally drags in, like, the second half in the middle, you know, it intentionally just kind of gets boring because they want you to, like, kind of just stop understanding what's going on and not really care either, to build up to that plot twist.
You're gonna hate me, but I've never seen it.
It's okay. I would easily agree with anybody who says it is on their 100 movies to see before you die list, but I'd also understand if someone didn't include it. You know, it's one of those movies that really had a strong cultural impact because of said plot twist.
Yeah.
But it's also just a movie. You know, it's not one of those movies that really, really transcends moviehood, you know, or really does something that incredible. It just has a great plot twist, you know, which people, anytime a movie has a great plot twist, is like, boom, wow, instantly added to the cultural memory.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to Endgame didn't feel like 3 hours, and that's what makes a good 3-hour movie.
Gotcha.
In my opinion. Of course, there are exceptions. I think Stalker's only 2 hours and 47 minutes, but it feels like it's 4.
Yeah.
You know?
What did you think about, what was the one that you watched after you kicked someone out of your house?
The Irishman.
Yeah.
God, I'm so glad that there's no chance the person that I kicked out of my house is gonna hear this to know that I kicked them out to watch Irishman. But yes, I did just get tired of having someone around, and I just wanted to watch The Irishman. I didn't think The Irishman earned its 3-hour length.
Gotcha.
To be frank. However, I think a lot about whether or not those last 30 minutes, which are the real key to that movie, the real shining moment of that movie.
Yeah.
The reason why it deserves anything, really.
Yeah.
I think a lot about whether or not those last 30 minutes would be as impactful if it wasn't for the 2 hours and 30 minutes that came before it. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question. I think Martin Scorsese has an answer, and that's it wouldn't be as impactful
there's probably like
without
a gazillion cuts of it, of like it being shorter and it being longer, and however.
Yeah. But yeah, me personally, I still think Martin Scorsese's 2 best films are The Departed and After Hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair. And we already did an episode on one of those.
We did. You should watch After Hours.
I
told you that After Hours. The reason why I watched it was because someone told me I remade After Hours in a 5-minute version.
Oh, okay.
Surprise.
Really?
Surprise, yeah. They said that was just a remake of After Hours. And it isn't, but I see the connection.
Gotcha.
It has that same concept that I built the whole movie around.
Yeah.
Of, what if the protagonist doesn't really have a goal? He just ends up somewhere and has to, the unwitting protagonist, which I still love that concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been an episode.
Um. Next episode, we're either going to be doing the Evil Dead trilogy, or we'll be doing the one where we talk about women,
badass
movies.
women of cinema. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
one or
have
the
reached
other.
out to.
You'll find out next
I've
week.
reached out. Yeah, I've reached out to. I'll name drop. I'll name drop. Her
Well, it's
name's
gonna be really
Julie.
weird if they don't come.
Her name is Julie Wirt or Vert. I keep forgetting.
Nice.
Julie Wirt.
Julie Wertberg.
And if she doesn't get on this podcast, our 13 listeners are going to be real mad.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I texted her, and hopefully she'll join.
Gotcha. And yeah, we could probably find someone else, too.
But I'm telling you, once you meet her, you'll understand why I think she's the perfect person to have on. She's extremely opinionated.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
And she is constantly talking about women in film.
Oh.
So she's a strong feminist as well.
Oh, this will be great.
Yeah. Yeah, she'll school us, and I think that'll be the move there.
Awesome. Okay.
All right.
Well, I think that's an episode.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
There will definitely be less Star Wars talk. So.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Bye.